Hello, 7th graders. Here we are for our very first lesson, lesson 1-6. This is new to all of us, so have patience and we'll see how it goes as I do our first recording for our lessons. Hopefully you're able to find this fine. We are doing comparing and ordering integers, which is lesson 1-6. And if you have your book and you want to look, it is on page 31. Our learning target for today will to be compare and order integers and find absolute value. So make sure you get that written down into your notes. First thing is some vocab. This is going really quick, but don't worry, I'll pause it as soon as my writing stops. The first two sets of vocab that we're going to talk about are integer and opposite. For integer, it is the set of all the positive whole numbers and their opposites and 0. So, for example, 1.5 would not be an integer. It is only positive whole numbers and their opposites. So it can be -2 or -3, but then it is also 2 and 3. The biggest thing to remember with integers, we're only talking about whole numbers, but it can also include 0. Our second vocabulary word is opposite. Opposite is two numbers that are the same distance from 0. So obviously you already know what the definition of opposite is, dark and light. But in mathematics, when we talk about opposites, we're talking about two numbers, like a negative and a positive, that are the same distance from 0, but in opposite directions. -2's opposite would be +2, so on and so forth. So, for our first part of our lesson, we are going to be finding the opposite of -12. I didn't realize that this would show all my mistakes as well. So you will have to bear with me because I deleted a lot of stuff. When you're looking for the opposite of 12, you are wanting to find how many spots and how far the distance has been from -12 all the way to 0. So how far did we travel here? We traveled 12 spaces. And so if we traveled 12 spaces from -12 to 0, we have to travel the same distance from 0 to, this would be +12. Okay? The way that I numbered this would be 0, 3, 6, 9, and 12. And so here we know that the opposite of -12 would be +12. Next couple things that we do here, I want you to do these on your notes. I want you to find the opposite of 8, -4, and -15. If you need to use a number line for that, feel free. Hit pause on your browser to be able to answer these questions. And when you're done, whether you've drawn a number line or just been able to figure these out in your head, the answer would be number 1, the answer is -8. Number 2, the answer is +4. Number 3, the answer is +15. Another vocab word for you. This vocab word is absolute value. This is something that you will be using for the rest of your mathematics career in junior high and high school. The definition of absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line. Again, I apologize that this is going to show all my mistakes. So when we say the absolute value of -3, it is written as -3 with two straight brackets on the side of it. So what I would like you to do now is to find the absolute value of -5 and of +5. Go ahead and hit pause while you figure that out. And when you're done, since we know that the definition of absolute value is the distance to from 0, then we would just look here and count. So how many spots is -5 from 0? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the absolute value of -5 is 5. And how about +5? How many spots? What's the absolute value of +5? How many spots are there from 0 to +5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer to what is the absolute value of +5 is also +5. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do with integers is we're going to compare. This is the next part of our learning target here. And when you compare, you're going to use the greater than, less than, or equal to signs. And in this case, I have it written less than, greater than, or equal to signs. When we're looking at -7 and 2, if you're having a hard time figuring out where these need to go, then the best use for figuring out this problem would be a number line. So what you're going to want to do is use your number line to figure out the problem. First, you're going to place -7. We know that all negative numbers are on the left side of 0. So we're going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots will be -7. Next, you'll graph your +2. 1, 2. We know that all positive numbers are to the right of the number line. So, is -7 less than, greater than, or equal to 2? Go ahead and press pause while you figure that out. And you should come up with an answer of -7 is less than +2. Remember, just like we read a book from left to right, we also read a number line from left to right. So whatever's on the left is going to be smaller, and whatever's on the right is going to be bigger. Okay, so now in your notes, I want you to go ahead and answer this question. Compare the numbers -8 and -2. Feel free to make a number line if you need to. You should come up with an answer of -8 is less than -2. This is where it gets a little bit tricky and confusing for some students, because 8, when we look at 8, we typically think of that as a bigger number than 2. But you have to remember this negative sign. When you look at a number line, -8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, -8 is going to be farther left than -2. Therefore, -8 is less than -2. And the last thing that we're learning today is how to order integers. We have talked about absolute value and we've talked about comparing, and now we're going to talk about putting numbers into order. This is also pretty important when you're using your math skills, because you want to be using number sense. Be thinking logically about what makes sense. And remember, if using the analogy of money helps you think better about integers, then please go ahead and do that. The reason I want you to graph this one is because I want you to realize where these numbers fall on the number line. So the first one I'm going to graph is 3. 1, 2, 3. So +3 goes to the right of the number line. The next one is -1. The next one is -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next one is +2. 1, 2. So this right here shows me the order we go in, because remember, we read from left to right. So we're going to start with -4, -1, 2, and then 3. So that would be our answer there. And you can go ahead and list that out on your notes. All right, sum it up. One thing that you will see and notice throughout the year is how I always end my notes is with a sum it up. Sum it up, and you'll notice my play on words. is sum, as in the sum or value, is just a really quick overview of what we've learned today and what I expect you to be able to apply in your homework tonight. Okay, so first thing we learned was absolute value. We write absolute value by putting brackets around a number. Good rule of thumb, the answer to absolute value is always going to be positive, and that is because what we're doing with absolute value is finding the distance that the number is from 0. Second thing we talked about is compare. When we compare integers, we are using signs like greater than, less than, and equal to. You can use a number line to figure out which order those integers go in. And then the last thing we learned was order. When you have more than 2 integers that you're comparing, you're going to be asked to put them in order. And you'll have to figure out which one goes where, and you can also use a number line to figure those out. Alright, so if you need help with your homework, you can just go back and look at these notes, and we'll be going through them in class as well. Have a great day.